This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
It's Saturday the 3rd of August. I'm Ciara Revens, and this was a week that saw a shocking incident in Southport, a £22 billion hole in the public finances, Kamala Harris putting pressure on Donald Trump, and Team GB stacking up the medals in Paris.
Grab a cup of something hot, put up your feet, and get up to speed on the 7 biggest stories of the week. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7.
It's news,
but not the news.
The nation was shocked this week by an horrific incident in Southport on Monday morning. 3 children died in what Merseyside police described as a frenzied knife attack at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class at a primary school in Hart Street. Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the events that unfolded were horrendous and deeply shocking, and praised the swift response of emergency services as the events unfolded. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper spoke in Parliament.
All of our thoughts will be with the family and loved ones of those who are affected. I have been in contact with the Merseyside Police and Crime Commissioner to convey our thanks to the police and emergency services for their swift and courageous response.
King Charles issued a statement on Monday night sending his sympathies to all those affected by the tragedy. Merseyside Police held a press conference at 7 p.m. to update on the progress of the investigation, which they said was not being treated as a terrorist incident. Merseyside Police Chief Constable Serena Kennedy is in charge of the investigation.
As a mum and a nana, I can't begin to imagine the pain and suffering that the families of the victims are going through at this moment in time, and I wish to send my heartfelt condolences to them.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer went to Southport on Tuesday to offer his condolences to the families of the victims of the attack.
I am very worried about high levels of knife crime, and I'm absolutely determined that my government will get to grips with it. But today is not the time for politics. Today is the time to focus entirely on the families who are going through such pain and grief.
Taylor Swift posted her condolences and sympathies after the incident, which took place at a Swift-themed dance and yoga class. There was a vigil on Tuesday evening, but there was also public unrest as what appeared to be a far-right protest outside a local mosque escalated, with at least 22 police officers injured and a police van set on fire. It's partly because misinformation and disinformation about the attacker has been spreading online, and Merseyside Police and Crime Commissioner Emily Spurrell urged people not to get sucked into online speculation.
There's still a lot to be figured out. It's obviously a complicated investigation, so they will have to take the time now to figure out what's happened, why it happened, and obviously I would encourage everybody to give them the space to do that and not to speculate about why or how this might have happened. The
protest spread to Downing Street, and that led to clashes with police and chants of Save Our Kids, with trouble also spreading to Manchester and Hartlepool on Wednesday evening. This followed rioting in Southport on Tuesday outside a local mosque, driven in part by online disinformation that sparked a wave of violent disorder. Southport MP Patrick Hurley says the fact that agitators are using the tragic incident to stir up hate is disgraceful.
This is a swirling morass of lies and propaganda, and people being given the opportunity to say the most vile things in the most vile of circumstances.
Late on Wednesday evening, Serena Kennedy, the Chief Constable of Merseyside Police, held a press conference to make an announcement on progress in the investigation.
A 17-year-old boy from Banks has been charged with the murders of Bibi, Elsie Dot and Alice. 10 counts of attempted murder and possession of a bladed article following the tragic incident in Southport on Monday, the 29th of July.
The suspect accused of the Southport attack that left 3 children dead appeared in Liverpool Crown Court on Thursday. In an unusual move, the judge allowed the 17-year-old to be named, waiving anonymity in the public interest, in part because of what he called the idiotic rioting that had taken place over the last few days. The suspect is Axel Rodekuba, and he's been remanded in custody until October. Prime Minister Keir Starmer held a press conference on Thursday afternoon to address the public order issues that followed protests sparked in part by disinformation spread online about the attack.
We will establish a national capability across police forces to tackle violent disorder. These thugs are mobile, they move from community to community, and we must have a policing response that can do the same.
He didn't criticise Reform UK leader Nigel Farage by name, but his video on Tuesday speculating about the identity of the attacker was seen as adding fuel to the fire. Barnes Worsey is a long-term campaigner against Islamophobia, and she says that the process of poisoning communities has been going on for some time.
For me, this is not surprising. Defamatory claims have stigmatised Muslim communities. And if you continue to poison our communities in this way, then it shouldn't really surprise us that we see that playing out on our street.
Chancellor Rachel Reeves addressed the nation on Monday as she revealed the details of a Treasury audit that's going on since Labour got the keys to Downing Street. There really wasn't any good news, as she says there's a £22 billion black hole in the public finances. Her findings have sparked an inquiry from the Office for Budget Responsibility into the numbers that were used to underpin the Tory spring statement. The immediate result of the shortfall was a cancellation of a number of unfunded infrastructure projects, including the proposed tunnel under Stonehenge, along with a cancellation of winter fuel payments for some 10 million pensioners. Reeves says the Tories were writing cheques that couldn't be cashed.
The previous government made commitment after commitment without knowing where the money was going to come from. They did this repeatedly and deliberately. Today I am calling out the Conservatives' cover-up, and I am taking the first steps to clean up what they have left behind.
Rishi Sunak's cancellation on the HS2 project led to costs of £2 billion on its own. The Shadow Secretary of Transport, Helen Watley, says that there was no attempt to hide figures.
The finances were clear to the public, considering what we've been through, a positive starting point for Labour. But of course, governments always have to deal with in-year pressures on finances. That happens, and you have to make difficult decisions. And the question is what decisions you make.
The early days of the new Labour government has seen a gentle and calm approach to politics, but the temperature started to rise once again now that Labour has accused the Tories of creating a £22 billion hole in the public finances. Chancellor Rachel Reeves hasn't been slow about accusing her predecessor Jeremy Hunt of lying about the state of the books.
Jeremy Hunt covered up from the House of Commons and from the country the true state of the public finances. He did that knowingly and deliberately. He lied, and they lied during the election campaign about the state of the public finances.
Hunt has been pushing back hard, questioning the maths of the Labour accountants and pointing fingers at projections around things like immigration, maintaining that the Rwanda scheme would have proved effective. He was also highlighting the fact that things like pay rises for junior doctors will impact the figures too.
They cancelled the Rwanda scheme. They've given the unions huge pay awards. But when you make those choices, it creates financial pressures, and they should be honest. It's their choices that have created the pressures that now have to be dealt with.
It wasn't all bad news this week though, as finally on Thursday the Bank of England lowered interest rates. The first cut in 4.5 years sees rates drop by 0.25% to 5%, which should ease some pressure on mortgage holders. It was a tight vote, however, and Governor Andrew Bailey said that while inflation had eased enough, nobody should expect significant cuts across the next few months. Chancellor Rachel Reeves was keen to remind people that the reason our rates are so high is largely thanks to Liz Truss and her disastrous mini budget.
Homeowners will welcome this cut in interest rates, but I know that millions of people are still paying higher mortgage rates after the Conservatives' mini budget. That's why I'm focused on taking the difficult decisions to fix the foundations of our economy.
Kamala Harris's campaign announced on Sunday night that they raised over $200 million in their first week of fundraising, largely from first-time donors, and they also signed up 170,000 campaign volunteers. The Trump campaign has been struggling with their vice presidential pick, Senator J.D. Vance, whose extreme views on abortion and wholehearted support for Project 2025 seem to be making him a liability on the ticket. He's gone viral for his love for couches, but has also managed to outrage childless cat ladies everywhere after comments resurfaced from a 2021 interview, which led to angry responses from many, including Jennifer Aniston. His attempt to fix things didn't go well either when he spoke to Megyn Kelly on Saturday morning.
I've got nothing against cats, I've got nothing against dogs, but people are focusing so much on the sarcasm and not on the substance of what I actually said. And the substance of what I said, I'm sorry, it's true.
New polling throughout the week saw a serious Kamala Harris surge as she closed the gap with Republican candidate Donald Trump and put increasing pressure on his campaign. Her next step will be to announce her vice presidential nominee for November's election. The surge for Harris had Donald Trump sounding increasingly rattled. He attended an event organised by the National Association of Black Journalists on Wednesday evening, and it did not go well. He warned that immigrants were coming to take what he called black jobs, and then pivoted into a new attack on Kamala Harris that left the audience shocked.
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black? I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't.
Tensions continue to rise in the Middle East this week after last weekend's Hezbollah rocket attack on the village of the Golan Heights, which killed at least 12 children who were playing football. US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken was urging caution and called for progress on the outstanding ceasefire agreement.
One of the reasons that we're continuing to work so hard for a ceasefire in Gaza is so that we can really unlock an opportunity to bring calm, lasting calm, across the blue line between Israel and Lebanon.
Head of the Palestinian mission to the UK, Hossam Zamalot, said there has to be a viable deal that would see Israeli hostages released on the table, but it's up to Israel to make the next move.
A deal is on the table for many, many months. And as you just heard from the US Vice President, the deal is on the table and Netanyahu must seize it, i.e. Israel's strongest, closest ally is telling us and Netanyahu it's in Israel's court.
Monday saw Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visit the Golan Heights village, where 12 children were killed by a rocket strike on Saturday. He vowed that there will be a harsh response from Israel, although there are increasing concerns that with the temperature rising between Israel and Hezbollah, things could tip over into an all-out conflict, even as the war in Gaza with Hamas continues. Western governments have been calling for calm while also urging their citizens to leave Lebanon, with the German and Irish governments the latest to urge evacuation. Israeli government spokesman David Menzer says that Israel will always defend its people.
We're not after understanding from the Western community or even their sympathy. We're after victory. And victory for us means pushing Hezbollah back behind the Litani River one way or another, diplomatically or through military means. We will do it.
And Israel wasn't slow to act, with reports on Wednesday morning that the political chief of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, had been killed in Iran. He was attending the inauguration of the new Iranian president in Tehran when he and his bodyguard were killed in what Hamas described as a treacherous Zionist raid. Earlier, Israel carried out an airstrike on the suburbs of Beirut on Tuesday evening, targeting Fouad Shukr, a Hezbollah commander and the man behind the strike that killed 12 children in the Golan Heights. The death of Shukr was confirmed by Hezbollah after an Israeli strike in Lebanon, but Israel has not claimed responsibility for the death of Hamas's political leader Ismail Haniyeh. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called a Security Council meeting as he grows increasingly concerned about the prospect of an all-out war in the region. US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was sounding more positive, but wouldn't be drawn on whether the US supported the Israeli strikes.
I don't think war is inevitable. I think there's always room and opportunities for diplomacy, and I'd like to see parties pursue those opportunities.
Did you get any warning that this was going to happen?
I don't have anything for you on that. We certainly have heard the reporting, but I don't have any additional information to provide.
Still to come, the Standout 7 mixed news for West Streeting and an avalanche of gold for Team GB at the Olympics.
Right after this.
This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
Welcome back. 3,
After 16 months of strikes, the new Labour government struck a deal with the British Medical Association, which could see the strikes come to an end. The offer, which is for a 22% pay rise over 2 years, doesn't match the 35% that the unions were looking for, but it's been good enough for the BMA to agree to put to its members. New Health Secretary Wes Streeting says that this is a chance to hit the reset button with the NHS.
I hope that junior doctors recognise the opportunity and vote to accept this offer, not just to end industrial action, but to begin turning our NHS around. We have an enormous task ahead of us, but working together, we can be the team that takes the NHS from the worst crisis in its history, gets it back on its feet and makes it fit for the future.
He didn't get much of a chance to celebrate reaching a deal with junior doctors, however, as he's now facing unrest with general practitioners. They've announced something just short of a strike that they're calling collective action, which will see appointments capped and a work to rule in a dispute over funding. It could mean that GPs will only see 25 patients per day, with 98% of the membership of the BMA backing the move. Streeting has asked for a pause in the action and was keen to remind doctors that Labour wants to improve things.
I can totally understand why GPs would want to punish the previous Conservative government, but this action will only punish patients. We now have a Labour government that's really committed to working in partnership with GPs so that people can get a GP appointment when they need one.
However, Dr Claire Garada, the former chief chair of the Royal College of GPs and a working GP herself, said that the situation is unbearable, and that's why they've decided to take this action for the first time in 60 years.
We do more as GPs in this country than any other GP ever. We need a complete reset of what's going on. The NHS is broken, and the only way to fix the NHS is to fix general practice.
Ever since Joe Biden stepped down from the presidential race, he seems to have become very focused on working his way through his to-do list before his term ends. He's proposed new legislation on the Supreme Court. He's continued to push for a ceasefire deal in Gaza. And on Thursday, he pulled off a significant diplomatic coup. After months of secret negotiations, it was announced that 3 US prisoners held by Russia were to be freed, including recently convicted Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich. Not only that, the deal also saw the release of Russian political prisoners and European citizens who had been wrongfully imprisoned. In return, 8 Russians were delivered back to Vladimir Putin. President Biden says it demonstrates the importance of having strong diplomatic relationships.
Our alliances make our people safer. It says a lot about the United States that this deal includes the release of Russian political prisoners. They stood up for democracy. Their own leaders threw them in prison. The United States helped secure their release as well.
The first week of the Paris Olympics saw plenty of medals for Team GB, with the very first set going to Yasmin Harper and Scarlett Mu Jensen, who won bronze in the women's synchronised 3-metre springboard.
This means everything to us. It's everything we've worked towards for the past year, and even before that, now to be stood here with the medal just feels incredible, and I feel really proud of us.
We've worked really hard and it's been really tough and it's not been smooth sailing, so yeah, no, we're really, really happy.
Tuesday saw a stack of medals, including 2 golds, 5 silvers and 3 bronzes across equestrian, canoe, swimming, diving and on the bikes. Adam Peaty managed to grab a silver in the pool despite testing positive for COVID, while Tom Daly added a silver medal to his 5 Olympics collection in the 10-metre synchro platform dive. The most amazing goal came in mountain biking, where defending Olympic champion Tom Plodcock managed to overcome a puncture and a 40-second gap to the leader to win gold. He was understandably emotional as he celebrated the achievement.
You know, the Olympics is so special and give everything, and that's what I had to do. I can't thank everyone enough, you know. Even at the tour with COVID, and then, you know, everyone around me, we just trained perfectly for this, and yeah.
Team GB's golden run continued on Wednesday with 4 goals for the crew of the women's quadruple sculls, who held off a strong Dutch crew to the last to win. Crew member Lola Anderson, who had dreamed of winning goals since the London Olympics, paid tribute to her dad for the inspiration. There was a silver for Team GB in the men's BMX freestyle. Beth Potter picked up bronze in the women's triathlon, and a bronze in the diving puts the UK up to 17 medals and 5th place in the medal table. The men's triathlon event, which had to be rescheduled because of pollution on Tuesday, went ahead on Wednesday, and Alex Yee delivered an astonishing performance to seal another gold.
You know, almost in 2 laps in, I probably thought maybe silver's on the cards, but you know, I owed it to myself to give myself one last chance, and with about 2k to go, I just thought I'd just give everything I had, and I'm just so proud that I was able to do that for my family.
On Thursday, though, one of Team GB's legends bowed out without a medal. Andy Murray and Dan Evans were in quarter-final doubles action against the US duo of Taylor Fritz and Tommy Paul, with Andy chasing a final Olympic medal. It wasn't to be, though, and despite a valiant fight back, the British pair lost in straight sets. Murray was in a reflective mood as he reached the end of his professional tennis career.
Yeah, I'm proud of my career. I worked really, really hard to achieve the results that I did in a really difficult time, to win the major titles. I gave it a good go. How my body sort of finished shows that, put my body through a lot training-wise and obviously on the match court as well. Looking forward to a rest now.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes and we'll give you the world.
Hi there. I'm a PBM. I'm also an insurance company. We middlemen are often owned by the same company. So, hard to tell apart. We control what medicines you get and what you pay at the pharmacy. That's why today, more than half of every dollar spent on medicines goes to middlemen like us.
Middlemen are driving medicine costs, and you don't know the half of it. Get the whole story at phrma.org/middlemen. Paid for by Pharma.